What happens when the person who gave you life looks into your eyes and sees only the man who destroyed it? The betrayal didn't arrive with a dramatic confrontation. It seeped in through the sterile blue light of a cousin's Instagram story, a digital invitation to Diane's 60th birthday, explicitly detailing a guest list, a timestamp, and a location that entirely omitted my name. When my sister Bryn called that evening, her evasion was a masterclass in familial gaslighting. We endured 20 minutes of mundane corporate small talk before she casually referenced a mysterious Saturday evening engagement. What exactly is the nature of this sudden, mysterious engagement? I asked, cutting through the static. Just some dinner, she deflected, the silence that followed heavy with complicity. Are we going to keep dancing around the ghost of her 60th birthday? I pressed. The silence stretched, brittle and thin. Through what vector did this information breach your firewall? She finally whispered. So the exile is official. She invited the entire bloodline except me. Perhaps the invitation simply hasn't been mailed yet, Bryn offered, a weak shield against the truth. Bryn, the event is in 4 days. What is the desired tactical outcome of this intervention? I don't want to be the crossfire, she sighed. You're already standing in it. I want you to ask her what specific offense I am being excommunicated for this time. We both knew the answer. I was a genetic echo of the man who detonated our family. I possessed his exact architectural blueprint. The heavy brow, the slate-gray eyes, the asymmetrical smile. Every morning, the mirror reflected the face of the man who chose a new life in Arizona over the one he had built here. I drove to Diane's house that Thursday. I found her in the garden, aggressively excavating weeds that didn't exist, utilizing horticultural busywork to avoid the emotional landmines in her yard. What necessitates this unannounced intrusion? She asked, her features arranging themselves into that familiar mask of fiscal dread, as if my mere existence was an overdue invoice she refused to settle. Which leak in the family dam brought you here? She snapped when I mentioned the party, her shoulders locking. I am your child. Why am I a ghost at my own mother's milestone? She finally turned, her eyes devoid of warmth. You wear his face. You sound like him. You are a walking monument to his betrayal. I cannot have you there reminding everyone of what he destroyed. I am not him. I chose to stay. I chose you. You look like him. That is an unforgivable sin. But Bryn shares his DNA. Bryn looks like me. She acts like me. You are all him. She turned back to her dirt. Leave. I sat in my car for an hour, the engine off, mourning a mother who was still breathing. Saturday arrived. I ordered pizza, staring at the wall, while Bryn sent me photographic evidence of my erasure. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even our grandmother Carol, who had flown in from Florida. In every frame there was a void where I should have been. I was home alone, penalized for my genetics. The breaking point wasn't emotional. It was physiological. On Monday, I used my spare key to enter her house. She was at the kitchen table sorting through birthday cards. Get out, she commanded, not looking up. No, you need to hear this. He abandoned us all. But while Bryn and I lost our father, I lost my mother while she was still sitting right in front of me. I am done trying to earn a love that should be a birthright. I smiled, but the room tilted. The ceiling rushed upward, the floor rushed inward, and the world dissolved into static. Consciousness returned in fragmented flashes. The sterile hum of the refrigerator, the sharp scent of bleach, and Diane's face hovering above me, stripped of its usual armor, pale with a terror I had never witnessed. Sirens wailed, growing louder. Paramedics breached the door, a woman with a sharp bob and a bearded man hauling gear. Diane scrambled back, her hands trembling as she explained to the female paramedic that we had been arguing and I had simply ceased to function. The paramedic checked my pulse, her eyes flicking between my pale face and Diane's guilty posture, instantly reading the toxic dynamics of the room. My blood pressure was a dangerous red line. They strapped me to a stretcher. Diane, looking smaller and infinitely older, asked to ride in the ambulance. In the back, hooked to a heart monitor, I watched her hand extend toward mine, hovering in the sterile air for an agonizing second before she pulled it back, pressing her palms into her thighs. At the ER, Dr. Whitlock, a man with kind, tired eyes, diagnosed me with a severe stress-induced syncope, compounded by chronic dehydration and malnutrition. Your body is initiating a forced shutdown, he explained gently, looking at Diane, who sat in the corner staring at her hands as if they belonged to a stranger. The physical vessel cannot sustain the psychological warfare. Bryn arrived in her party dress, her face hardening as she pulled Diane into the hallway. I heard their muffled, vicious argument. Bryn was finally weaponizing the truth, demanding to know why our mother had chosen cruelty over basic decency. Marin, my partner, arrived shortly after with my phone charger and a bag of clothes, her jaw set in stone. She didn't engage Diane. She simply marched to my bed asking, "What are the immediate requirements for your comfort?" I don't have the energy to exist in her orbit right now, I rasped. Maren turned to the doorway, her voice a blade wrapped in velvet. Go home, Diane. You've caused enough collateral damage for one day. Carol walked in next, still in her party attire, radiating a fury I had never seen directed at her own daughter. She took my hand, her grip anchoring me. I confronted her at the party, Carol confessed, her voice shaking. I asked her in front of the entire family why her child was excluded. She gave me that pathetic excuse about your face. I told her it was the most cowardly thing I'd ever heard. The family knows. They are ashamed. Dr. Whitlock returned with discharge papers, his expression grave. You are suffering from chronic stress disorder. If you do not alter your environment, your heart will eventually give out. Bryn insisted I stay at her apartment. Maren transformed the couch into a command center, working remotely while keeping a vigil over my recovery. That night, we dissected 15 years of emotional starvation. I recounted the pneumonia incident in 10th grade, the gas station gift card for my 15th birthday, the honor roll report card ignored. The cruelty isn't in the grand betrayals, Maren observed softly. It's in the steady drip of being treated as an optional accessory. It's the way you trained yourself to ask for nothing, because asking for anything felt like a burden. The next morning, Diane's texts began. Bryn acted as the firewall, responding only with clinical updates. I am alive. Space is required. By day 3, Carol arrived with homemade soup and a profound confession. I enabled her, she wept, holding my hand. I thought giving her space to grieve the divorce would heal her. Instead, I let her calcify her pain into a weapon, and I watched her aim it at you. I am done protecting her from the consequences of her actions. Her relationship with me now depends on her getting professional help and making genuine amends. On Thursday, my primary care doctor confirmed the ER's verdict, prescribing 2 weeks of medical leave and a referral to Dr. Hale, a trauma specialist. Walking into Dr. Hale's office felt like signing a surrender treaty, but her calm, unsympathetic gaze was exactly what I needed. When I finished recounting the birthday party and the collapse, she asked the pivotal question, what is the architectural blueprint for our future dynamic? I realized I didn't have one. I had only ever wanted her to love me. Hope can be a trap when it keeps you accepting harm, Dr. Hale explained. Sometimes the most radical act of self-preservation is grieving the mother you needed, so you can build a life with the reality you have. Maren and I spent the weekend drafting a forensic accounting of my boundaries. We created a 2-page document detailing the exact requirements for any future contact. Mandatory grief therapy for 6 months, specific acknowledgments of past rejections, and a strict prohibition on any comments regarding my resemblance to my father. Vague requests for kindness were replaced with actionable metrics, greeting me upon arrival, asking questions and listening to the answers, and acknowledging holidays without prompting. Bryn delivered the document. She reported that Diane read it twice, her face pale, asking if it was negotiable. No, Bryn had replied. This is the bare minimum for basic human decency. 15 years of rejection is harsh. This list is just the antidote. 2 weeks later, I returned to work. I was different. Grounded, no longer floating on the anxious current of seeking my mother's approval. Nadia texted me confirming that the extended family was applying pressure. Diane was actually seeking therapist recommendations. 3 weeks in, Bryn confirmed Diane had started weekly trauma therapy. She was doing the homework, confronting the unprocessed rage she had transferred onto me. Thanksgiving arrived. I refused to attend any gathering with Diane. Bryn split her day, spending an hour with Diane before joining me, Maren, and Carol for a chosen family feast. As we went around the table sharing gratitudes, I surprised myself. I'm grateful for the collapse, I said. It forced the rot into the light. It made the dysfunction impossible to ignore. The day after Thanksgiving, a plain white card arrived. Diane wrote that she was grateful I was alive, that she was in therapy, and that she had much to learn. It was brief, but it lacked the defensive posturing of her past. By December, the emails began. Diane asked permission to initiate low-pressure correspondence. Dr. Hale and I established ground rules. No guilt, no comparisons to my father. Her replies were careful, almost stiff, but she was practicing active listening. She remembered details. She asked follow-up questions. Bryn told me Diane kept a physical folder of our emails, reviewing them when therapy got difficult. In late March, Diane asked for a 1-hour coffee meeting in a neutral location, with Bryn as a buffer. Dr. Hale and I role-played the encounter, establishing an exit strategy if I felt disrespected. When she walked into the cafe, she looked terrified. She was the one bracing for rejection. We talked about the weather, then work. She listened. She didn't interrupt. When the hour ended, she asked if we could do it again. Maybe, I said. It was the most honest word I had spoken to her in a decade. By May, we met for coffee without a buffer. She shared her own childhood trauma, realizing her mother's coldness had left her unequipped to process pain. She admitted she had used me as a proxy for her ex-husband. I shared my own journey of rebuilding my self-worth. It wasn't a magical fix, but it was two adults navigating the wreckage, rather than a child begging for scraps. For Bryn's birthday, Diane invited me to a small dinner. I agreed, with the caveat that I could leave at any time. The dinner was awkward but respectful. Halfway through a story, Diane caught herself centering Bryn's achievements over mine. She stopped mid-sentence, apologized, and corrected the narrative. The self-awareness was staggering. After the meal, she handed me a photo album. Inside were pictures I had never seen. Me at my 8th grade graduation, playing the piano at 10, reading on the porch. "I've been looking at these in therapy," she said, her voice trembling. "Trying to separate you from him? Trying to see you." She stood close to me. For the first time since I was 12, she looked at my face without flinching. The old tightening around her eyes was gone. She was finally looking at me. "This doesn't erase the 15 years, I told her, holding the album against my chest. Her eyes filled with tears. "I know, I'm not asking it to." I got into Bryn's car. As we pulled away, I looked in the rearview mirror. My mother was standing in the doorway of the house where I had collapsed, watching me go. The foundation was still cracked, the architecture was still flawed, but for the first time in my life, I was the one holding the blueprint.